Hello everybody. I hope we're all doing good today on this fine day. I am coming to you just figuring out what I'm gonna draw today in our art and talk session. You know, I found out that the whole thing with the GoPro chunks of video being 17 minutes long is some kind of feature having to do with SD cards and data loss and some other weird stuff, and I can fix it with editing software. So yet again, I'm working on the editing stuff. I had Photoshop, Adobe for a while, and years ago when you could still just buy it, but then it went to some kind of subscription-based nonsense. So don't worry, kids, I'm figuring it out. If anybody maybe has a suggestion for like a free, very basic video editing software that you can get for Linux-based computers, that would be awesome. Okay, so what kind of things should we draw today? I'm just gonna think. I think I'm just gonna draw like a random, you know, like something I would do for a coloring book. Little weird characters everywhere and stuff like that. So, when you're drawing a coloring book, the idea is to fill it up. You know, fill up the page with stuff. Nothing too crazy or crazy as you want, I guess, you know, but the idea is to fill the page up with stuff so that you have plenty to color, right? Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, the weather's turning where I'm at in the world. That's all good. It's going to be, you know, winter pretty quick. And still my kid wants to run around the house in frickin' shorts with no shirt on. Like we're in the middle of summertime. Don't worry, Dad, just cranked up the heat, right? Right? No, here's me. I got my house hoodie. If you ever wonder why I'm wearing the same broke-looking hoodie, it's because it's my house hoodie. I realized I was an old man when I had a hoodie that zips up, that can hold the remote to the TV in one pocket and my phone in the other pocket. Then it hit me. Wow, I'm old. It's okay though. It's okay being old. You know, people are always like, being old, no. But there's benefits to being old. You know, wisdom comes with age. Lots of wisdom. So we're gonna have all these little like Pac-Man ghost looking fellers. We're gonna have them over here. And then maybe down on the ground we'll have some kind of, you know, some kind of other setting going on. You know, I was looking at all the movies that have come out this year, and it seems like every one of them has flopped. Flop, 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 flop. You know, just gazillions of dollars they give these people money, and they just, hey, let's remake that one movie 16th time, you know? And it makes me wonder, like, has it become that corporatized in Hollywood that, you know, even risking $20-30 million, and yeah, that's a lot of money when you're talking to plebs like us, but, or like me at least, but when you're Hollywood, that's nothing for a movie. And just having a movie of an original idea with, you know, up and coming or, you know, nobody actors that nobody knows of, is it really that much of a risk to invest in a new movie? Look at that movie that came out not too long ago, a couple years ago, I guess. It was called The Creator. And it was about, you know, it was in the future, you know, 70, 80 years in the future, the near future. And, you know, robots, AI and stuff was a big thing, and robotics were big, and the evil Americans got rid of robots because we didn't want to recognize their rights, you know, the normal story. And in Asia, the robots went and lived and made their own little robot kingdom, and the Asians were so much more accepting of them and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, and the Americans had that thing that went around the world zapping stuff. It was called Nomad. It was like a semi-space station orbital bombardment platform. Anyway, long story short, that movie was made for like $30 million. It was made by, you know, a handful of people on the crew. Some kind of Sony, you know, nice ass camera, don't get me wrong, but like when it comes to like the movie cameras, it's nothing. And really good effects, good, you know, all the stuff is good. I like that movie. It was a good movie. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what they need to do. They need to make more movies like that. You know, low budget, you know, per se, but high concept, original ideas that people care, you know. People are so burned out, at least in my opinion, on the remake, on the reboot, and they've rebooted everything. Everything. You know, even like the How to Train Your Dragon. It's like, that didn't even come out that long ago, dude. And you're rebooting it already? Like, holy smokes. Anyway, so yeah, man, that's just my overstated opinion, that they should be spending money on stuff that's new. You know, people want new. People like the familiar, don't get me wrong, and that's all great, but it's like, people also want new, you know. So just my limited opinion. So I'm gonna have all these Pac-Man ghost looking fellers here. They're all gonna be, I think, escaping from like some kind of thing on the ground. Maybe coming out of something on the ground. You know, I was watching YouTube earlier this morning. I dropped my kid off at school, and because I'm old and stuff, I came home and I ate something, but because I ate something, I had to sit down and relax for like 25 minutes, half an hour, maybe about an hour. And I was watching YouTube, right? And there's this guy on there that I really like. It's called The Feral Historian. And he speaks like, he's probably the best spoken person I've ever seen. You know, he's obviously highly intelligent, probably in or was some form of academia at some point in his life. And he's, you know, skinny, but not like skinny, not like skinny, you know. He's just one of those lean people. And he's got, you know, red hair. He's just really well spoken. He's always outside, you know, in the winter and the summer, it doesn't even matter. But he's talking about movies and like the real world, you know, like he'll talk, like the one I just watched was about Star Trek and Trekonomics and stuff, and like how money works in Star Trek, and how it's, you know, there is still money in Star Trek, even though they're always like, there's no money in Star Trek. Well, there's some kind of currency, you know, because everybody else uses it, and you gotta interact with people and other cultures and stuff. But this guy has such good takes on movies and the ideas behind movies, and you know, just it's cool. I like him. Makes you think, you know. And by not bringing real world issues up to front, up in, you know, in the front, he can pretty much say what you want without pissing people off, or at least without pissing a lot of people off. And that's kind of always been the idea behind Star Trek and sci-fi in general, is that like it took modern day issues and talked about them in times where people didn't want to talk about them. Because let's get honest, that's what people do. People don't talk to each other anymore, and they haven't for a while. And that's a problem. But yeah, watching that guy is awesome, and I recommend anybody that hasn't heard of him to go check him out. Feral Historian on YouTube. The guy's awesome. Yep. Raining, getting crappy out where I'm at. Gives me plenty of excuses to make videos and work on my graphic novel. That's kind of a daunting task, you know. I've never done it before. You know, yeah, there's other examples to look at. But, you know, making the rough draft and writing it, and then designing my own page layout, because I'm not going to use, like, you know, just some layout I find on the internet. The pages are going to be different, you know. They'll maybe have a box and the rest of the thing will be an image, but every page is going to be different setup than, you know, just a box, but, you know, that kind of thing. You know, yeah. And I imagine, you know, once I've done it a couple times, I'll obviously get better at it. I'll have a better system on it. But, yeah. The first time. And then obviously it'd be different, you know, if I made money with it to the point where I could quit my liquor store job and focus entirely on that, then, you know, I hate to say it, but it'd be a great motivator. You know, here's the book. Oh, you made $250,000. Like, holy smokes, I'm quitting my job and making more books. And I'd have time to do it because the money would be there to pay the bills to do it, you know? So, and that's the ultimate goal here. And it's like I said on my last Art and Talk, is that the YouTube is there because I needed something to get me in the interim between making the book and the time it takes to make the book and get it out there. I wanted something in the interim. One, to keep my skills good, you know, just to keep drawing every day. And number two is to get my name out there more, you know. So got my 150th subscriber the other day, and now I got like 154, which is awesome. Thank you very much, people. Super cool. I know it's not a lot of people, but that doesn't mean anything. It'll become more and more, and hopefully I don't piss people off and they unsubscribe, you know. So, but we'll see what happens. And my kid today is like, well, last night really, he told me, hey, you know, if I bring a can of food in, I can wear a hat on Thursday, any kind of hat I want, any kind of hat, or you know, I was like, what about a helmet? And he's like, oh, I can't cover your face. I'm like, well, I got a fencing helmet. If you know what a fencing helmet is, it's like the Squid Game helmets. It's got like they're a lot more see-through though. You know, it's like a mesh, hard mesh face, so that you get stabbed in the face and it won't do anything. But you can totally see the person behind it in there. Excuse me. And I was like, well, I'll give you a can of this nuclear ham we have, you know, that canned ham. It's good for like 20 years. I gave him one of those and gave him the fencing helmet and told him not to let people punch it out or anything. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully he listens and nobody punches it out. Yeah. If you ever want to make a coloring book, this is all you gotta do, people. Just fill it with, you know, a lot of stuff. Make it busy. Make it busy. So we got all these little fellers, and they're all coming out of some place over here. Maybe like this hole right here that we're gonna make. Yeah. Yeah, they're all coming out of this hole. Yep. You know, I was thinking the other day of my time out in North Dakota. I spent like several years out there working when my kid was brand new. I wonder what it's like these days. It's been been a while since I was out there. Going on 10 years. It's funny how people change. I'm sure they've all changed a lot. You know, a lot of us weren't in the best spot back then. And I've heard a couple of them had kids and stuff, and that's good. But, you know, like I said, not all of us were in the best spot back then. Pretty much none of us were. And, let's leave that at that. And I'm just hoping that, you know, just hoping that they're doing good. Times in life where you think about people that were in your life before that aren't anymore, you know, and you wonder what they're doing these days. Like bus boys at a restaurant, as he said in Stand By Me. People come in and out of your life. In and out of your life. What we got here? No, how about this one? So they're all coming out of that little hole. And then, you know, we'll draw like the sun over here, kind of in the corner. Draw him like that. Yep, a lot of stuff. You know, I got, in the background, I got this guy, John Hicks, I watch on YouTube, that biker from LA. And, always interesting to watch this guy. And just, you know, I have it pretty much on mute right now, and I don't want his stuff to pop up on my video and get hit with a thing, you know, and unintentionally. But yeah, man. He's always in LA. I mean, he lives there, so obviously that's where he's gonna be. I wish maybe one day when I'm rich, I'll send him like a huge super chat or whatever they're called, and I'll say, here's the money. Go do a ride around in Riverside, where I'm from. I want to see what it's like these days, you know? That'd be cool. Hey man, here's 5,000 bucks. I'm sure his time is worth money. It's a fairly large YouTuber. Hey man, here's 5 grand. Was that enough for you to drive over to Riverside, which isn't even that far from where he's at, and bust out a ride for me? Who knows? That'd be cool though. Yeah. I think about that. I'm like, you know, trying to get my first 1,000 subscribers is fairly difficult, you know, because nobody knows who you are. So I wonder, you know, it's like I've heard other big subscribers and that are people that have gotten big, you know, say, oh, that first 1,000 was hard to get. And I believe them. I believe them. You know, I was thinking, like I said on my last Art and Talk, it'd be nice to get to a point where after I got 1,000 people and I can monetize and, you know, do lives and stuff, go on a live and, oh, I had, you know, 21 people donate, whatever. One guy donated 15 and another guy donated 2. You know, take that and make one of those wheels that my kid makes to the probability wheel, you know, and spin that and be like, oh, this person, no matter who it lands on, gets the image that I just, you know, that we just made on this live. I think that would be cool. And then that person DMs me and you send out the live to them. Or send out, sorry, the live. Send out the image to them. I think that'd be cool. That would be cool. Now I'm going to do a thicker line there. Yeah, just spitballing though, you know. I think you needed 1,000 people to get monetized or go live or any of that. So it's down the road, down the road. In the meantime, just going to be drawing. Bump. Ugh. It's a weird angle because I can't move the thing around, you know, so I got to kind of deal with the angles. Maybe I will move it around a little bit just so I can get in there. But yeah, that's just an idea I had. Like, oh, that'd be cool. You know, people donate and then be able to be like, hey, here's that illustration. That'd be cool. I would do that. We'll see. It's an idea for down the road. Ah, the bump. Alright, people, I'm going to have to move this around a little bit so I can do my actual artistic thing. But yeah, maybe that's what I should start doing. On these where I'm not beholden to a minute long